We're the only car maker in the world that has a
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. It's actually, it's not a Srimad Bhagavatam, it's Chaitanya Charitamrita this time. And Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 4, text 61 and 62. So, so we're going to have this morning, Hare Krishna. So without further ado, I'll start the class. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Ivadadari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Ivadadari Yashodanandana Rajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Rajajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jayaratha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayaratha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivadadari Yashodanandana Radhajanaranjana Yashodanandana Radhajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Nitai Gura Chandra, Nitai Gura Chandra, Gura Hari. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada, Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo, Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhans Privajikacharya, Bestow Terasati Sushimada's Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Chirabhupari Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhans Privajikacharya, Bestow Terasati Sushimada's Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Lama Charja Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. ISKCON founder charge Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivas Hari Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shami Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Mathura Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. गंगा माई की जय जमुना माई की जय तुलसी देवी की जय भक्ति देवी की जय हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय सामवेद भक्त बिंद की जय निताई गौर प्रेमानंदी हरि बोल. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the Lord Spirit of Sri Guru and Guru Hanga. Vishnupadaya, Krishna Krishnaya, Mudaya, Srimati Bhakti Keta Swami Nitinam. Namaste, Krishna Padaya, Prabhupada, Siddhartha, Sri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Keta. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Guru Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Guru Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna. So Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 4, the confidential reasons for revival or the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. Text 61. Sachid Ananda Purna Krishnera Swarupa Ekaichit Shakti Tanmadharitin Rupa Sachid Ananda Purna Krishnera Swarupa Ekaichit Shakti Tanvidharitin Rupa Sachid Ananda Purna Krishnera Swarupa Ekaichit Shakti Tanvidharitin Rupa. Hare Krishna. Anyone who wants to chant can do so now. Unmute yourself. Hare Krishna. Anyone? Okay. That's also good. Everything is good. Satchitananda. Hare Krishna. So, word for word. Satchit Ananda, eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Purana, full. Krishnera, of Lord Krishna. Swarupa, own form. Eka, one. Chit Shakti, spiritual energy. Tanra, of him. Dhare, manifests. Tina, 3. Rupa, forms. Translation by His Divine Grace is Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Lord Krishna's body is eternal, Sat, full of knowledge, Chit, and full of bliss, Ananda. His one spiritual energy manifests 3 forms. So text 62. Anandam se hladini sat amse sandini chit amse sambit yare gyana karimani. Word for word translation. Ananda amse in the bliss portion. Hladini, the pleasure, energy. Sat amse in the eternal form. Sandini, the existence, expanding energy. Chit amse in the cognizant portion. Sambit, the full energy of knowledge. Jare, which. Jnanakari, as knowledge. Mani, I accept. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Hladini is his aspect of bliss. Sandini, of eternal existence. And Sambit, of cognizance, which is also accepted as knowledge. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In his thesis, Bhagavad Sandarbha 103, Srila Jiva Goswami explains the potencies of the Lord as follows. The transcendental potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by which he maintains his existence is called Sandini. The transcendental potency by which he knows himself and causes others to know him is called Sambit. The transcendental potency by which he possesses transcendental bliss and causes his devotees to have bliss is called Hladini. The total exhibition of these potencies is called Vishuddha Sattva. And this platform of spiritual variegatedness is displayed even in the material world when the Lord appears here. The pastimes and manifestations of the Lord in the material world are therefore not at all material. They belong to the pure transcendental state. The Bhagavad Gita confirms that anyone who understands the transcendental nature of the Lord's appearance, activities, and disappearance becomes eligible for freedom from material bondage upon quitting the present material tabernacle. He can enter the spiritual kingdom to associate with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and reciprocate the Hladini potency in transactions between him and the Lord. In the mundane mode of goodness, there are tinges of passion and ignorance. Therefore, mundane goodness being mixed is called Mishra Sattva. But the transcendental variegatedness of Vishuddha Sattva is completely free from all mundane qualities. Vishuddha Sattva is therefore the proper atmosphere in which to experience the personality of Godhead and its transcendental pastimes. Spiritual variegatedness is eternally independent of all material conditions and is not different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, both being absolute. The Lord and his devotees simultaneously perceive the Ladini potency directly by the power of the Samvit potency. The material modes of nature control the conditioned souls, but the personality of Godhead is never influenced by these modes, as all Vedic literatures directly and indirectly corroborate. Lord Krishna himself says in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, chapter 25 and text 12, Sattvam Rajastama iti guna jivasya neva me. The material modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance are connected with the conditioned souls, but never with me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vishnu Purana confirms this as follows. Satvadayo na santishe yatra na pakrita guna. Sa shuddha sarva shuddhevya puman adya prasidatu. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, is beyond the three qualities, goodness, passion, and ignorance. No material qualities exist in him. May that original person, Narayan, who is situated in a completely transcendental position, be pleased with us. In the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, that is Canto 10, chapter 27, text 4, Indra praises Krishna as follows. Vishuddha sattvam tava dhamma santam tapo mayam tvashta rajas tamaskam. Maya mayo yam guna samprabhaho na vidyate te grihananu bandha. My dear Lord, your abode is Vishuddha Sattva, always undisturbed by the material qualities. And the activities there are in transcendental loving service unto your feet. The goodness, austerity, and penance of devotees enhance such activities, which are always free from the contamination of passion and ignorance. Material qualities cannot touch you under any circumstances. When not manifested, the modes of material nature are said to be in goodness. When they are externally manifested and active in producing the varieties of material existence, they are said to be in passion. And when there is lack of activity and variegatedness, they are said to be in ignorance. In other words, the pensive mood is goodness, activity is passion, and inactivity is ignorance. Above all these mundane qualitative manifestations is Vishuddha Sattva. When it is predominated by the Sandhini potency, it is perceivable as the existence of all that be. When predominated by the Samvit potency, it is perceived as knowledge in transcendence. And when predominated by the Ladini potency, it is perceived as the most confidential love of Godhead. Vishuddha Sattva, the simultaneous manifestations of these three in one, is the main feature of the kingdom of God. The absolute truth is therefore the substance of reality, eternally manifest in three energies. The manifestation of the internal energy of the Lord is the inconceivably variegated spiritual world. The manifestation of the marginal energy comprises the living entities, and the manifestation of the external energy is the material cosmos. Therefore, the absolute truth includes these four principles: the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, his internal energy, his marginal energy, and his external energy. The form of the Lord and the expansions of his form as Swayam Rupa and Vaibhav Prakash are directly the enjoyers of the internal energy, which is the eternal exhibitor of the spiritual world, the most confidential of the manifestations of energy. The external manifestation, material energy, provides the covering bodies of the conditioned living entities, from Brahma down to the insignificant ant. This covering energy is manifested under the three modes of material nature and appreciated in various ways by living entities in both the higher and lower forms of life. Each of the three divisions of the internal potency, the Sandhini, Samvit, and Hladini energy, influences one of the external potencies by which the conditioned souls are conducted. Such influence manifests the three qualitative modes of material nature, proving definitely that the living entities, the marginal potency, are eternal servitors of the Lord and are therefore controlled by either the internal or the external potency. Excuse me. Oma Ginati Virandasya, Gyana Gana Shalakaya. Chakshu Omilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale. Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadanti Swaha Padantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale. Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pacharini, Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Shitara. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shiva Shari Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So the English translation of text 61, Lord Krishna's body is eternal, Sat, full of knowledge, Chit, and full of bliss, Ananda. His one spiritual energy manifests three forms. Text 62, English translation. Hladini is his aspect of bliss, Sandhini of eternal existence, and Samvit of cognizance, which is also accepted as knowledge. So these texts 61 and 62 both talk about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his energies. Three energies, Sat Chit Ananda. And Sat Chit Ananda, eternality, that is Sat, and Chit is knowledge, or sometimes called cognizance, awareness. And Ananda, bliss, or the highest happiness. That is bliss. At least the dictionary definition of that. Ananda is highest bliss, highest happiness, bliss. So, Lord Brahma also confirms that. Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha. Satchidananda Vigraha is what's been described here. Lord Krishna's body, Vigraha, Satchidananda. The body is eternal, Sat, full of knowledge, Chit, and full of bliss, Ananda. So this spiritual energy of the Lord manifests these three forms, Satchidananda. Lord Brahma says more about Krishna, but we'll get to that later. Then these energies, these descriptions of these three forms are described in energy form in the next text 62 or verse 62. So Sat Chit Ananda. Sat is eternal existence. And that energy is called the Sandhini energy. Chit is the cognizance of knowledge, and it's called the Samvit. And Ladini is the Ananda, or the bliss, the energy of bliss. Now, so this is described so wonderfully here. There are three energies of the Lord. Later on, Sri Prabhupada talks about the sum total is four: Krishna himself, and then the three energies. But he would relate it also to the material aspect of it, because especially those of us who are in the material world, we need to understand the connection between the spiritual and the material, and how the Lord regards these. So in the purport for 62, verse 62, Srila Jiva Goswami, one of the six Goswamis, he wrote Bhagavad Sandarbha. In the Bhagavad Sandarbha, he describes these potencies in greater detail. They are all transcendental. They're not material. The transcendental potency by which the Lord maintains his existence and the existence of all of the souls who are part and parcels of him, that is, all of us and those in the spiritual world also, all of us in the material world, that's called Sandini, eternal existence. And Jiva Goswami says that the transcendental potency by which he knows himself, knowledge, cognizance, and causes others to know him, that energy is called Samvit. For Satchidananda, that is the Chit part. The transcendental potency by which he knows himself and causes others to know him. So our relationship with him and our understanding of him is from this Samvit, transcendental potency or energy. And then the transcendental potency by which he possesses transcendental bliss, transcendental highest happiness, and causes his devotees to have bliss is also called Ladini. So in this case, what is being explained here is we relate to us in the material world, we are in a suffering condition. Some people realize that, and some people do not realize that. Some people are seeing their suffering because they're dissatisfied with the way things are going. But those who are satisfied, sometimes find it difficult to realize that we are in a suffering condition. But even if you don't realize in a suffering condition, all you have to do is look around you to see what is happening to others. And then you see that old age is a suffering condition and disease is a suffering condition. If we didn't see anything else, those should bring, because both of them cause pain to the physical body, and that puts us in a suffering condition. The soul is not affected directly, but we are in the material world, so this affects us. So anyway, coming back, Sandini is eternality, Samvit is cognizance and knowledge, and Ladini is the pleasure potency of the Lord. Now, put together, all of them put together, is called the Vishuddha Sattva. Sattva gun is mode of goodness. Vishuddha Sattva is the pure goodness, not tinged with any kind of things like passion or ignorance. So this is what is the spiritual world, consistency in the spiritual world. That's what's there. Vishuddha Sattva, Satchidananda, or Ladini, Sandini, and Samvit, these three. So the Lord is completely spiritual. So when he comes to the material world, his pastimes and things that he manifests or does in the material world, they are not material. He can be in the material world, but he maintains his spiritual state with these energies, Satchidananda, or Sandini, Samvit, and Ladini energy. So this Vishuddha Sattva, which is the sum total of these three, it belongs to the pure transcendental state. And the Bhagavad Gita confirms this. This is how connection with this. Bhagavad Gita says that anyone who understands that the Lord's appearance and activities are transcendental, that person becomes eligible for freedom from material bondage. And when they quit this body, they go back to Godhead. Because they're understanding that the Lord's appearance and the Lord's activities are spiritual, makes us bond with the spiritual aspect of life and makes us not take the material aspect of life so seriously. Ishvara Parama Krishna, says Lord Brahma. The Supreme Lord Krishna is the Supreme Controller. And so the Supreme Controller is there, and we are servants of a servant. And when we understand it that way, that everything the Lord does is in fact transcendental and not material, then we are ready to do the things that he asks us to do to connect with him spiritually, and therefore we get an opportunity to go back to the spiritual world. So in Bhagavad Gita, it is said that, Prabhupada says that in his purport, and it is specifically in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, which is entitled Transcendental Knowledge, and chapter 4, text 9, Janma karma chame divyam evam yoviti tatpatha. Sri Prabhupada sometimes says this particular text, he quotes it quite a lot. Janma karma chame vidyam yo janati tatpatha. In there it says evam yoviti tatpatha. They mean the same. Jatpadeham puna janma neti mamiti so Arjuna. The translation is, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving this body, upon his death, take birth again in this material world, but goes to the eternal abode, attains the eternal abode. He's telling Arjuna that. Amiti so Arjuna comes to me. So, in part of the purpose Srila Prabhupada is saying for this particular text 6 of chapter 4 in Bhagavad Gita, one who can understand the truth of the appearance of the personality of Godhead is already liberated from material bondage, and therefore he returns to the kingdom of God immediately after quitting this present material body. Sometimes people hear about the appearance of the Lord, they hear about the uncommon activities of the Lord, and then they say, well, how is this possible? How is it possible that he can dance with gopis and the gopis see him, even though there are millions of gopis? Each gopi sees that Krishna is dancing with her only. How is that possible? Well, it's not a material thing. And a person that understands that Krishna, nothing, he's a being where nothing is impossible for him. Nothing is impossible for him. So when the mind says, can Krishna really do that? And your intelligence kicks in and says, absolutely. Krishna can expand to several Krishnas for the particular pastime that he wants to be involved in, for the pleasure if we take the pleasure and allow his devotees to give him pleasure. When the gopis want to dance with him one-on-one, and he's with Sobhani and he's with Radha in the center, and they want to dance with him one-on-one, they can't do that. The gopis cannot do that unless Krishna makes it possible for that to happen. By expanding into so many forms. Well, it's not possible for us to expand like that. That's true. It's not possible. We are in a physical body, but Krishna's body is spiritual. and spiritual does not have that limitation. So when we understand it that way, that his birth and his activities, just like the example we gave with dancing the gopis, they are not material, then we begin to understand, God is in a different category by himself, and we are in this material world with these physical bodies, hence our limitations. But the mind should not be limited. The body may be limited, but the mind should not be limited in connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his activities. So as soon as we take it to heart, it says it is all possible and it is wonderful. And I'm glad that the Lord can exhibit such wonderful pastimes. We're happy to hear that. The person who is like that feels that way and connects in that way, is a liberated person. Liberated means that we are still in this physical body, in this material world. But the question is, we have booked our ticket. It's only a matter of time that we will be connecting with the pastimes of the Lord as spiritual entities. And the soul will be released and be able to serve the Lord in bliss, be part of the Ladini potency of the Lord. So, impersonalists and yogis, they don't get this opportunity so easily. They may get liberation, and even that they will go into the effulgence of the Lord, the Brahmajyoti. And even that there's risk of returning to the material world. So the devotees, by understanding the transcendental nature of the body and activities of the Lord, we bypass all of that and go to the abode of the Lord after ending this body, and we don't have any risk of returning to this material world. So we understand and accept that there are many transcendental forms of the Lord. Based on his pastimes, we hear different situations. The Lord comes, and in the boar incarnation, Varaha, he kills Hiranyaksha. In the half man, half lion, Shringadev, he kills Hiranyakashipu. And then in his original form, two-handed form, he is in Vrindavan with Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj as a child growing. The Lord owns everything. But still, he prefers to relate as a son so that the parents can give him all of their love. Like that. And even those in Vrindavan, the other mothers and the fathers, they are also wishing that Krishna could be with them in their household the way he is in the household of Nanda Maharaj, Nanda's palace, nice big palace, and Mother Yashoda. And he grants them that through Lord Brahma, pastime with Lord Brahma, stealing the cows and the cowherd boys. And Krishna changes himself. Again, he expands. And this time he expands to the forms looking like what the mothers and the fathers know as their children. But that is Krishna. And then he goes home to their houses so that they can give him love, so that he can receive their love. And Krishna does it in such a wonderful way. He does not change the way they perceive things. So he's come to their houses looking just like the cowherd boys, each house's son, each parent's son. But that is Krishna. And of course, from that relation, such love that comes that these parents could give to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they get the opportunity to give to him at their houses. So whenever devotees want to extend love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he always makes it available. He makes himself available to receive love. And all we have to do is serve him in love, and we will be happy. When we serve him with love, then the Ladini potency, the blissful potency, begins to affect us also. And that's where the happiness is. This is why when that happens, then we have to leave the material sense gratification aside. And that's why we advise in so many ways by spiritual masters, by the parampara, avoid sense gratification. Don't make arrangements for sense gratification. You should detest. You should hate. Detest means hate. Hate sense gratification. Why? Because it gets in the way of the divine potency, the spiritual bliss that's there. And it is there. We have to connect with it. The Lord has made it available. And so this is a form of the Lord that is very pleasing. The Lord himself looks very, very, very attractive. And we know, even while we're here in the material world, that people tend to be attracted to beauty. And so the Lord is the most handsome personality. So clearly he gets attracted. He just gets easily, gives the attraction energy. It just comes. Even if we don't understand it, it doesn't matter. You connect the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you're connecting in the right source. Even if we connect and we don't understand what love is like, Krishna will purify this little that we have to make it clean love, like he did Kubja. When the Lord came to Mathura with Balaram at the time that he was planning on killing Kamsa, Krishna came to Mathura with Akrura and Balaram, and he was going to get rid of Kamsa. But he toured Mathura, and at that time he met this hunchback lady, and the lady, they stopped. Krishna and Balaram were together. They stopped and talked to her. She was attracted to him, but attracted to him not in a spiritual way, in a more material way, but he still was attracted. First was how good Krishna looked. So Kubja had some words with Krishna. He explained, she explained her situation and the service that she was doing for Kansa. But still, she was so attracted to Krishna that she preferred to serve Krishna instead of Kamsa. That was a very smart thing on the part of Kubja to do, but it was because of her attraction. By the way, Kubja was in the previous yuga the sister of Ravana. Her name was Shipanaka. So that was in Treta Yuga as Shipanaka. And she was very attracted in the Dandakaranya forest to Lord Ram. Now, Lord Ram was with his wife Sita and his brother Lakshman. But Shipanaka was attracted to him anyway. And he was in the demonic mindset and posture and everything else. He had followers because he was a brother of the king Ravana. So she decided, well, this is the man I want. I must have what I want. Demons are like that. So she expressed her intentions to Lord Ram, and Lord Ram says, my wife is one, and her name is Sita, and I don't have an intention of having anyone else. And so when Shipanaka's plans were not going well, and she tried to attack Sita, Sita is the impediment. If I get rid of Sita, then I can have Ram. But Lakshman did not allow that. Lakshman struck back at Shipanaka, cut her nose off, cut her ear off. Shipanaka was disfigured that way. She returned to Ravan and explained what had happened and tried to get Ravan to come take Sita away. So the plan was hatched. But through all of this, in the end, when Ravan was killed by Lord Ram and Sita was released, Shipanaka was still attracted to Lord Ram. That goes to show how attractive the Supreme Personality of Godhead is. This is an expansion of the Lord as Lord Ram. And Shripanaka could not take Lord Ram out of her mind, so much so that, as is explained in Gaga Samhita, she went to perform austerities in the ocean. No, not the ocean, but the river. But she just plunged into the river and stayed there to perform austerities for 1,000 years. Now, this is Treta Yuga. People were living to be 10,000. 1,000 of those years, Chipanaka performed this. Brother Ravana was already dead, killed by Ram. But he was performing austerities and appealing to Lord Shiva to help her to connect with Lord Ram. Lord Shiva came after 1,000 years and then explained that the Lord Ram, when you met him the first time, he told you that his wife was Sita and there wasn't going to be any other wife or consort or girlfriend or anything of that sort. One wife. So you cannot get Sita. I mean, you cannot get Ram that way because of Sita. But since you perform this, and Lord Shiva is very kind, he grants things that people want. He said in the next Yuga, that is Dwapara Yuga, the Lord will come again, and you'll have an opportunity then to have your wish fulfilled. And so Shripanaka was born also in the same Dwapara Yuga that Krishna appeared, and he was born as the hunchback Kubja. So that meeting, Kubja got attracted, and even though the attraction was material, by the words that she expressed to Krishna, Krishna purified her. So in the same way, whatever thoughts that we have, if we begin to serve Krishna in love, then we also get the opportunity to have our consciousness purified. And Lord Chaitanya has made it even easier for us. We just chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So hearing and chanting purifies our consciousness. And that way we get an opportunity to get the love that's there in the Ladini potency of the Lord. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead should be everybody's aim to get love in this Vishuddha Sattva, which is a combination of Ladini, Sandini, and Samvit, the three potencies together. So there is some connection, the Vishuddha Sattva with the material. And it's explained nicely by Srila Prabhupada that yes, we are in the material energy, and it shouldn't be surprising to anyone that Vishuddha Sattva is a part of it is connected. The reason is we are souls. We've been told we are not these bodies. We are the soul, and the soul is, in one sentence, connected with Vishuddha Sattva. The soul is Satchidananda. The soul has these three qualities from these three energies. Now we have the physical body on top of that because we are here in this material world. So there's a connection. And that's what Srila Prabhupada was explaining in the purport that he wrote. So the goodness, austerity, and the penance of the devotees enhance such activities. In the mode of goodness, to perform austerities and also to do penance, and Lord Chaitanya has simplified the method for us. It will enhance this Vishuddha Sattva. We connect with such activities of the Lord, and then that makes us free from the contamination of passion and ignorance. Therefore, then we come to the mode of goodness. So we should be kind, we should be tolerant, all the examples that given in Bhagavad Gita chapter 18, text 42, the way the Brahmanas were. But at the same time, while we're doing that, we should keep doing activities in devotional service. Then the passion and ignorance slowly, Papa says, it's a gradual growth. So slowly the passion and ignorance disappear, and more the goodness is more dominant. And then with the chanting, which is already transcendental, and it's a gift from the spiritual world to all of us, when that comes into play, then we are ready to go back to Godhead, because then we will believe that all activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is in fact transcendental. So, Janma Kama Chamedi Vyam Evam Yutat Vetitatpata Tyaktaveham Punam Janmani Neti Mamiti. So, Arjuna. If we know that the appearance and activities of Krishna is transcendental, we are going back home. If we know that, if you know, as you know, and you imbibe it, you believe it, therefore you act with that understanding, then you're going back home. If I do that, then I'm going back home. So it is open for everybody. You take advantage of it. Krishna consciousness is like that. So the other reference that Srila Prabhupada was given in the canto 11 in Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 25 and text 12, he explains Sattvam Rajas Tama iti guna jivasya nevame chitaja yastu utanam sajamano nibadyate. He's explained here by Srila Prabhupada, it's explained here that the three modes of nature, which we know, goodness, passion, and ignorance, it influences those of us, those here in the material world, but it never influences the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the direct translation of that is the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. They influence the living entities in the material world, but not me meaning Krishna. Manifesting within his mind, these three manifesting within the mind of the living entity, they induce the living entity to become attached to material bodies and other created objects. And in that way, the living entity is bound up. So it is these three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, which does not affect Krishna at all. That's a separated energy. But they affect the living entities. And that's what causes one of these three, or sometimes a combination of two or all three, cause the material body, the living entity, the soul that's in this material body to become attached to some things here in the material world. One thing after, and we all have all kinds of attachments. Or you see other people's attachments. Some people have pets, and they take so much care of the pets. They brave all kinds of weather to sometimes be out with them. And sometimes I see in my neighborhood, wintertime is very cold, and those people are still walking their dogs, and they're all just bundled up and trying to do whatever they can because the dog has to be out for a while. They have so much dedication. But the object of dedication is actually the wrong one. The real dedication should be to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But do they know that? No, but still they have the love. They will serve something else, someone else. In that way, the living entity has this tendency, but we have to turn it to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we have the choice. Living entity is in the marginal potency of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, they can choose the spiritual, or they can choose the material. If we choose the material, that's bondage, and we go through suffering. If we choose the spiritual, then we'll be connected with the Ladini potency. And so that's always there for us. And that's why Krishna comes and exhibits his pastime so that we become enthused and excited to be connected with Krishna. And then when Lord Chaitanya is telling us, chant the holy name of the Lord, and he does that in such great, great, great bliss himself, with the mood of Srimati Radharani, the mother of devotion. Lord Chaitanya is acting like that. and he is most beautiful. He looks just like Krishna with a golden color. That's Lord Chaitanya. And tall with long arms and has it up in the air and chanting the holy name. Anybody in the mode of goodness would easily be attracted to that whole scene and want to be part of it. And by doing so, the Lord Chaitanya gives the highest love of Godhead to that personality. So it is still there. In the Harrisburg Temple especially, we have Nitai Gaur Chanda, the Lord, with us. Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda. And if we relate to them, they allow us the wonderful thing. One point I want to make, and then stop here. It's almost 9 o'clock. We should be very fortunate, feel fortunate that the Lord has come in a deity form. Not only do we see the Lord, but we see the Lord as in the altar, does not seem to be doing anything. Why? The reason is we get to serve the Lord 100%. Look at it the other way. If the Lord was doing some things for himself, would we get to do those things? If the Lord was dressing himself, would we get an opportunity to dress? If the Lord was making his own meals and eating, would we get an opportunity to feed him? So when he's there doing nothing and making himself available, then we have the maximum opportunity to serve in all kinds of ways. So we take advantage of it. As Srila Prabhupada has made it possible for us. And then, as he says, Janma Karma Chame Divyam, Evam Yuvati Tasmata, where we get an opportunity to go if we understand that his birth, the Lord's birth, and all his activities, we believe are transcendental. Then we get a chance to go home. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Apologize for the length of this went a little bit longer than I would like to, but still, here we are at the end of this. And I would like, if you don't mind, devotees, unmute yourself and add some comments to this if you want to, or realizations from it, or questions that you may want to ask. All that's available for now to unmute yourself and do. It is 9 o'clock, but we still can do a little bit of question and answer and Krishna Katha a little bit before we end. Hare Krishna. So anyone wants to take part in this? Hare Krishna. Please go ahead. I see you unmute yourself. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances, August Srila
That's fine. Go
Prabhupada.
ahead, Srila Prabhupada.
There was one question that I had and I don't quite understand, and this was earlier when you read in the last purport. Srila Prabhupada says pensive is in the mode of goodness, I think. Can you please explain that? Because pensive doesn't, at least the meaning that I think, it doesn't sound, so I'm not very clear on what that term, that phrase means.
Okay, let me just see about pulling it up again, and then I suppose I can go back and share it also. Let me just do that. And I'll give myself a few seconds to that. If not, then I'll basically just go back and let me see. Okay, here's the screen. Here we go. So it should come back. All right. So the part you're talking about, let me see if I can find it. All right. So repeat your question. You said pensive is. Can you come back to
I think Srila Prabhupada said something pensive is in goodness or something like that, and then he talked about what is that?
Yeah. I don't see it here right now. Maybe, but I remember that it says pensive. Here we go. Pensive is the mode of goodness. Activity is the mode of passion, and inactivity is the mode of ignorance. Now, before that, you see in the front, it says when not manifested. That's when he's talking about this. When the material energies, the material world is not manifested, the modes of material energy then are fused together. They said in goodness. When they are externally manifested and then they produce varieties of existence, they said it being passion. And when there's lack of activity and variegatedness, it's ignorance. So this is where it's at. So when the modes of material nature, that is when the material world is not out and living entities are not put in the material energy yet. That means that when this is with the Kanadakshay Vishnu, not come out of Mahavishnu's pores, then everything is in mode, it's kept in the mode of goodness. Now, when it's come out, when the living entities are born and they start acting activity, then that's mode of passion. So pensive is when it's retained, when the material world is retained in the body of Mahavishnu. Pensive mood. When a pensive mood, there's nothing happening there. This is just the storage mode, if you like, stored in the mode of goodness. Then when it's out of the pores of Mahavishnu and Lord Brahma is involved, Abhadaksai Vishnu is involved, Shirodaksai Vishnu is involved. Now we have activity. Now we have souls who have different bodies based on their desires and all kinds of activities going on. And activity is passion, as we well know. People get things because they go after it with the mode or with the understanding that I want it and it's going to satisfy my sense gratification. So they go act it with so much passion. Of course, the devotees are supposed to direct their passion to serving the Supreme Personality of God and devotees and Guru. But that activity of going after stuff, that's the mode of passion. Now, inactivity does not mean they don't do anything. The only part of inactivity, which is ignorance, that directly defines inactivity is laziness. The person is inactive is also laziness. A lazy person is in the mode of ignorance. Now, a person who does the wrong thing also, it is the wrong activity. That is also coming under the same category of ignorance. So pensive is when things are still with Karunadakshay Vishnu, Mahavishnu. And when it comes out and people start acting, trying to connect with the things that the material energy or the material world provides, then that is mode of passion. And then when they do things that's wrong or lazy, they don't do at all, that's mode of ignorance. Hare Krishna. Any other questions or realizations or takeaways? All right, so hopefully everybody understands that that main word that was used so many times, Vishuddha Sattva. Vishuddha Sattva is pure goodness. It exists in the spiritual world, and it is the sum total of these three energies. Sandhini, which is eternality, Samvit, which is cognizance or knowledge, and Ladini, which is bliss or Ananda. The three together are called the Vishuddha Sattva. And that is how things operate in the spiritual world. Vanchakalpatarubhishcha kripa sundibhe evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. So the devotees have a nice weekend.
Hare
Krishna
Krishna.
conscious weekend. Hare Krishna. Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai. Hare Krishna. Glory to Srila Prabhupada.